that you're a cheater, and I believe that you
needs these guys. Jake needs Tyson and needs all these other people because everybody's going to tune in to hope that Mike Tyson knocks him out.
Right.
They're not tuning in because they think Jake Paul's a great fighter and they want to see him.
Dana White just dismantled the entire idea of a Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul fight, and honestly, it's hard to disagree. Jake Paul has never been in it for the real grind of boxing, the blood, sweat, and bruises. From the start, his focus was on chasing fame and stacking cash, not landing knockouts. His strategy was all about generating YouTube content and building a brand, not proving himself in the ring.
and that thing that you came out with today, nobody on earth thinks that you really wrote that. You're too stupid. And for those of you that don't know, if you've ever watched one of his fights and you see when they do the stare down, the guy that's...
Tyson's wild videos, promo stunts, and dramatic face-off clips weren't just side projects. They were the main event. The guy knows how to ride the hype train straight to the bank. And let's be honest, once a YouTuber, always a YouTuber. Dana White didn't just slam Jake Paul for chasing fame. He threw in a heap of alleged shady dealings, making it feel like a courtroom drama. By the end of it, even I found myself with more reasons to dislike Jake Paul than I ever thought possible.
Stupid. And for those of you that don't know, if you've ever watched one of his fights and you see when they do the stare down, the guy that's standing in the middle with the warlock nose and the big warlock wart on his face, apparently that's his manager. And that guy used to be an accountant for me. And let's just say this, he no longer works for me, and I think he's a...
3. In his signature no-nonsense style, Dana White is absolutely obliterating Jake Paul, calling him one of the biggest frauds to ever enter fight sports. But Dana doesn't toss around insults for fun. He's accusing Jake of using steroids and dismissing his entire boxing career as a series of gimmicky matchups, built more on spectacle than actual skill.
I didn't even know the guy was fighting. When Jake Paul lost to Fury, I haven't really paid attention to Jake Paul.
I have love for Jake too.
Before anyone brushes off Dana's words, let's remember, this is the guy who transformed the UFC from a backyard brawl into a global, multi-billion-dollar empire. His expertise in the fight game isn't up for debate. When Dana speaks, even the loudest skeptics have to sit up and listen because he knows exactly what he's talking about.
You think that you can do it better than we do. We're doing this whole thing wrong. You could treat the fighters better than we do. Knock yourself out. Go start your own business. It's easy to do. Go get the Warlock on it. The Warlock can get it started for you. What you and the Warlock should be focused on is your business.
Dana's fury isn't just about personal beef with Jake. It's deeper. It's like Jake has disrespected the entire sport Dana built. He sees Jake manipulating boxing, turning it into a spectacle for clicks and cash, cheapening the whole thing. To make the point even sharper, Dana turns his attention to Jake's manager, sarcastically dubbing him the Warlock. Apparently, this guy used to be an accountant for the UFC, but couldn't hack it. So now, in Dana's words, he's been reduced to being Jake Paul's errand boy. Dana paints him as a cautionary tale, once a number cruncher, now desperately trying to stay relevant by clinging to Jake's social media circus. The whole thing oozes mockery, with Dana making sure to emphasize just how far this Warlock has fallen from any kind of respectability.
He fights older people that are smaller. It's all the same.
And if you think Dana's trash talk ends there, think again. He ramps it up in true fight promoter fashion, issuing a challenge to Jake Paul that goes far beyond words. Dana demands a steroid testing showdown, claiming Jake's biceps aren't the result of hard work and protein shakes. He wants random drug tests for Jake, and to prove he's got nothing to hide, Dana proposes a bold deal. He'll undergo random cocaine testing for 10 years. Yes, 10 whole years of drug testing, all to prove that he's clean. It's a challenge like no other, with Dana putting it all on the line.
I'm ready to roll, buddy. I don't use cocaine. Do you use steroids? Let's do this, Jake.
This whole steroid versus cocaine drama has turned into a spectacle bigger than some actual fights. A full-blown media frenzy, with headlines everywhere and social media buzzing out of control. Suddenly, the Tyson versus Jake Paul matchup isn't just about who's getting knocked out in the ring. It's dripping with controversy, accusations flying, and egos clashing like heavyweights. Dana's challenge isn't just spicy trash talk. It's a battle cry, demanding Jake Paul prove he's not all smoke and mirrors. The fight hype has evolved from punch predictions to wild steroid accusations, making this showdown way more explosive than anyone ever imagined.
Jake, you never responded to the challenge. You publicly stated that I use cocaine. I do not. So I told you you could randomly cocaine test me for the next 10 years. I believe that you're a cheater, and I believe that you use steroids. So I want to randomly steroid test you.
Jake Paul has never been one to shy away from a heated debate, especially when it comes to stirring up drama. And now, with his fighter pay crusade, he's leaning in hard, portraying himself as the noble warrior standing up for underpaid MMA fighters. The guy who made his name pulling pranks and causing chaos on YouTube is now acting like the Robin Hood of the fight world. He loves to throw out eye-popping numbers. $600,000. That's what he claims top-tier UFC heavyweights make on average. Then he hits you with a comparison. $30 million, the jaw-dropping payday for heavyweight boxing champions. According to Jake, it's a massive injustice, and naturally, he positions himself as the only hero brave enough to call it out. But let's be real, Dana White isn't buying any of it. He comes at Jake's statements with sarcasm so sharp, it might as well have blades. Dana openly scoffs at Jake's supposed grasp of fighter pay and the business behind it, making it almost comical how little respect he has for Jake's crusade.
If you think he's not paying fighters fairly, it's all greed and it's all going to fill his pocket.
Dana White, the mastermind who turned the UFC into a global powerhouse, listening to a YouTuber lecture him about finances. Yeah, not happening. Dana lays it out, telling Jake if he thinks he's so clever, he should stop whining and start his own M&A organization. Then, with a heavy dose of sarcasm, Dana throws down a challenge, saying it's easy to do, his tone dripping with disbelief. It's like Dana's daring Jake to put his millions where his mouth is and find out just how brutal running a fight promotion really is.
He didn't even know half the guys' fucking names on the card. And the list goes on and on with that guy.
Khabib, he retired. Do you think there's ever a chance that Khabib would come back and fight? Is there a number that you can say, Khabib, we got 20 million, we got 25 million?
I threw the numbers at him, trust me.
10. This isn't just playground banter, it's a collision of two vastly different worlds. On one side, you have Dana White, the man who built the UFC into the gold standard of mixed martial arts, working with absolute legends like Khabib Nurmagomedov, who left the sport undefeated and untouchable. On the other, you've got Jake Paul, whose entire combat sports career has been a series of viral marketing stunts against retired, often smaller, MMA stars. Jake wants to paint Dana as a greedy tycoon, raking in cash off the sacrifices of underpaid athletes. But Dana sees through the act, calling Jake out as a self-serving fraud who only pretends to care about fighter welfare when it suits his brand.
He's making money. If you can...
You making real money, Dana, or are you making...
I don't know. That I don't know. I don't know what he's really making.
Jake's so-called crusade for fighter pay gets even more laughable when you consider his own fight lineup. He's made millions boxing against retired, out-of-their-prime fighters like Tyron Woodley and Ben Askren, guys much smaller than him. Yet, Jake keeps bragging about his earnings as if he's some champion of justice. Dana finds it utterly laughable, and honestly, it does come off as a bit hypocritical. If Jake truly wanted to make a difference, he'd be doing more than just talking. He'd be stepping up in ways that actually challenge the system, not just cashing in on easy fights.
And was also considered a boxer, and he lost. So if you can keep fighting fucking 50-something-year-olds...
You don't think Tyson has a chance?
And making a living at it. I think that Mike Tyson has a puncher's chance against anybody.
Now, with the added spectacle of Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, things get even messier. Mike Tyson is a living legend, no doubt, but he's also pushing 60. The man who once could knock someone senseless in seconds is no longer the unstoppable force he once was. And yet, here he is, about to face off against Jake, a guy nearly 3 decades younger. The age gap is almost insulting. Critics like Bernard Hopkins, who knows a thing or two about longevity in boxing, have been quick to call it out, saying Jake and Tyson shouldn't even be in the same conversation.
Hey, guys that box for a living and guys that are your age. How about that?
He says he wants to fight Canelo. I'm just saying what he...
I hear you. And why is he not fighting Canelo?
Canelo, I don't think Canelo wants to waste his time.
Yeah.
As much as people criticize, they can't resist the spectacle. It's like watching a train wreck. You just can't look away. The idea of a 58-year-old Mike Tyson landing one of his legendary punches on Jake Paul's face. That's viral gold. Former UFC fighter Brendan Shaw breaks it down. If Jake knocks out Tyson, everyone's going to call him a bully for beating up an old man. If Tyson knocks out Jake, it's game over for Jake's boxing credibility. The worst-case scenario? A dull decision win that leaves everyone, including Netflix, wishing they'd spent their money elsewhere. Jake's preparation is making waves too. He's packed on muscle, moved up to heavyweight, and is doing everything he can to look like a serious contender. But critics, led by Dana White, aren't impressed. Dana argues Jake's entire boxing career is rigged, always fighting retired or undersized opponents. Despite Jake's gains and Instagram-worthy workouts, people are still wondering if he can actually handle Tyson, even an older version. Or is this just another chapter in Jake's endless campaign to stay relevant and keep the cash flowing? Ultimately, this isn't just a fight. It's a battle over what it means to have respect in the sport. Jake Paul is trying to position himself as a crusader for fighter rights, but his actions tell a different story. Dana White isn't letting that slide. He's highlighting every contradiction and exposing Jake as a guy who cares more about his brand than the sport he claims to defend. This saga isn't just a clash of fists. It's a war of words, egos, and reputations.